I don't want people to be motivated or inspired by my business success. I want them to try to look in the mirror and be accountable. When you take full ownership, that's usually when the healing journey starts.
He was a celebrity agent to the biggest names in the world, but behind the spotlight, he was fighting a battle no one could see. Darren Prince built a career representing icons, navigating the highest levels of sports and entertainment. But while he was managing legends, addiction was managing him.
Most of the successful people that I know are living it from an external space. The toys and the flex. Really define wealth is finding your purpose and your passion from within. I believe I was a prime candidate to fall victim to drug addiction. I just had a huge head start and access because I was making real money.
His journey from opioid dependency to long-term recovery became the turning point that transformed his life and his mission. Today, he's a best-selling author, an international speaker, and an advocate proving that success means nothing without freedom.
When you're in an addictive state of anything, the biggest struggle is the lack of power. You can truly go through the dark and come out on the light. The strength is in being vulnerable, not hiding it. When you're able to just come out and have that freedom of saying everything and not hiding it, the miracles start to happen.
So I am the best version of my fucked up self I've ever been. Darren, what does that mean?
Well, now being 17 and a half years sober and doing, so much awareness work, personal development work, character defect removal, couples still pop up once in a while. And there's nobody out there that doesn't have shit. There's nobody out there that doesn't have unresolved trauma. Some suppress it, some bring it to a surface. And to live this authentic, transparent frequency, I don't want people to be motivated or inspired by my business success. I want them to try to look in the mirror and be accountable for not looking at your mother, your father. It's their fault. It's the ex-husband, the ex-wife. You made those choices for whatever reason. And when you take full ownership of it, that's usually when the healing journey starts. And, David Goggins is a good friend and client. I'm in town for his event tomorrow. And he always says it, everybody's fucked up, and for somebody to say they're not, you're suppressing a lot of stuff. And most of the successful people that I know that don't want to admit that are living it from an external space. And they're doing it with the toys and the flex. And sort of, we just talked about how you and I really define wealth is finding your purpose and your passion from within and sharing that gift with the world, just like you're doing. So like I said, I'm so grateful and appreciative to have me on here, because what you've built and the messages that get sent around the universe to help people is tremendous, not just professionally, but personally.
I appreciate that a lot. And I think we're very much on the same wavelength when it comes to like what defining success and wealth and whatever you want to achieve in your life. I think that when people are very young, and I think you're an extreme example, people look at sort of they get the wrong role models. They look at, okay, how do I make as much money as I possibly can make in the quickest amount of time possible? How do I achieve sort of like the material success? And I think it's even worse now because of Instagram and social media than probably it even was when you were young. But your story is very interesting because you achieved that material success at an incredibly young age, like much younger than most people ever achieve it. Tell me how you achieved that success, but also tell me what it did to you.
I grew up in Livingston, New Jersey, and, you would have thought from the outside, I was the, super happy young kid, loving family. I had one sister, and I just never fit in, man. I always felt socially awkward. It was always like I felt like I had imposter syndrome from a very young age. And a lot of it, when I look back at it, was because I was in very small classrooms. A lot of times my friends were in the big classrooms, 50, 60 kids, and I was put in rooms like this with 3 or 4 other people, known as the special ed crew. And I heard about it. I heard crickets. I heard teasing. I was verbally teased and, never spoke up about it. But I just knew school wasn't for me. And my first experience with drugs were at sleepaway camp. I was about 14, and I had terrible stomach pains one night, and the counselor took me to the nurse. I didn't realize looking back on it, it was separation anxiety. I grew up a mama's boy, didn't like being away from my mom and dad, and she gave me this green liquid. I took it. It tasted terrible, but walking across the softball field back to the bunk, my life changed forever, man. I mean, I felt like Superman. I didn't know what it was, but I was just as popular, just as cool, just as smart, talking with the guys, flirting with the girls at the bunks next door. And I did this for a few straight weeks, not realizing until my mom and dad came for visitation day that it was liquid Demerol. You know, back then it wasn't a controlled dangerous substance. And I started that next year when I got back home. Um, I had 4 different odd jobs. I squeezed orange juice at a supermarket, worked at a pizzeria. I was a stock boy at a sneaker store, and I was a busboy, had a diner. So I would save all that money and buy all my friends' baseball card collections. And my father noticed that I could read the back of a baseball card in the 1980s and literally almost had a photographic memory with numbers. And we would sit in front of the TV. I'd start talking to him about statistics, and he was mesmerized by it. And one day, an intro to business class teacher, I'm still close with this to this day, Elliot Lovey, challenged the class to go home and create a business. Now, in my mind, I had thousands of dollars worth of baseball cards. I just never had a plan to execute how to sell them. But I knew from certain trade papers that I was getting, there was these things called baseball card conventions. So I'd go downstairs to my dad. I'm like, hey, I need insurance for my baseball cards. He looks at me like I'm crazy. I wish he was alive today because he would love the way I tell the story. And insurance, he's like, how much do you have? I'm like, Dad, I probably got about 8 or 9. And he's like, all right, I'll call homeowners and try to get you like $1,000 worth of insurance in case there's ever a flood or God forbid a fire. I'm like, no, Dad, 8 or 9,000. And he looks at me like I've got 3 heads. How the hell do you have 8 or 9,000 worth of cards? I'd go back upstairs. I get the price guy to start showing them. Well, who's going to buy them? I pull out this big newspaper ad, this big. It was at the Holiday Inn back then, 1984, on Highway Route 10 for anybody from New Jersey listening in Livingston. And it was $20 to buy a table. So I executed. I mean, I wasn't a student in school, but when it came to this, my dad started realizing my brain worked with numbers, and being a sponge with him from his guidance in business, he said, was mesmerizing. So now that came with the confidence. Oh, I got my dad's support. Yeah. And every day after school, whatever I had to do, he owned a typesetting and design company. I would call them and have them make beautiful signs. I bought display cases. I made sure this was going to be the most beautiful 6-foot display you've ever seen, and became a big family affair. And that Sunday, I actually set up, ironically, with my best friend, one of my best friends, Steve Simon, who runs my agency now. We go back since I was 10 years old, and he's one of my top agents at Prince Marketing Group. He went in for the hobby. He spent like 2 hours the day of throwing some cards in a shoebox and went. I spent 2 weeks. So when people are listening and talk about preparation to doing a business, nothing just happens like that.
Of course not, yeah.
And 2 weeks, when you're talking several hours a night, to prepare for this, I was ready. You know, I knew the market, I knew the business, I had my display laid out. You know, you gotta remember there was no social media back then, computers were limited. And I went in like this was my new career, and I made over $1,000 that afternoon. And Steve made like $30, and that was.
How old are you again when you're doing?
I was 14.
So just to paint the picture, 14, you figured out how to make money, but also you figured out the effects of drugs on confidence and identity. Really, this is very young to be dabbling in this shit. Yeah.
Yep.
That's very, very young. Okay, so you made
it was kind of a perfect storm, but not at the same time. That I went home that night, and the one feeling I remember, I wrote about this in my book, Aiming High, that I published in 2018, was I remember getting home and it was so euphoric. I felt so important on the show floor. Like the energy was flowing. People were running over to me. Like I was this hotshot, well-respected young kid that knew about the rookies, the minor leaguers, the top prospects. And I started making friends with people, and I actually felt like, this was school. Like, and I was the head of the class. I was the valedictorian. I was the one, and all my friends who sold me their collections, again, were making fun of it. What are you doing with those stupid cards? Like, cards are corny, bro. Like, we got out of baseball cards years ago. And needless to say, a few years later, when they all came back from college break, I started hiring one of them one at a time, a
Of
bunch of
course.
them one at a
Of
time
course. Yeah.
to work for me because they couldn't believe what I built. So that night, though, when I was 14, Scott, like it went from like this euphoric feeling to all of a sudden this empty feeling. So there was some unbelievable attachment to the external validation of that $1,000 that I made of
It's a high for
feeling
sure. It's
important.
a high when you make money.
And I couldn't figure out why this happened. It was Sunday night, getting ready for bed to go to school. And it went from like this to this. So, you know, looking back at it, that time in my life, I believe I was a prime candidate to fall victim to drug addiction. I just had a huge head start and access to get whatever I needed because I was making real money. By the time I was 15 years old, I was making a couple $100,000 a year selling baseball cards. I was literally the first person in the state of New Jersey to buy a cell phone. It was called Bell Atlantic. And the phone was $3,000 back then. It had huge aluminum battery pack with the rubber antenna, and the phone clipped on top of this aluminum battery, and it had this leather case. And I had it in my locker. So I'd be running ads in a magazine that's still around to this day called Sports Collectors Digest. And I would have stockbrokers calling. And you couldn't text back then on cell phones, but it did have a voicemail attached to it. So in between class, I would run to my locker, listen to the messages, eat real quick, and be making notes, writing down notes from these stockbrokers that were calling because somebody might have wanted a Mickey Mantle rookie that weekend. So whatever it might have been, Joe DiMaggio, Babe Ruth, could be a modern day, the popular guys back then, Strawberry Mattingly, Wade Boggs, Tony Gwynn, they wanted 5 of this, 5 of that. So I just became a broker to all these guys.
14, 15, 16, you make a couple $100,000. I've always thought about this, actually. You just mentioned something that I think is actually very true. The same personality that is required to be successful in business, like the obsession over what you're doing and all the preparation and the reason why you made $1,000 and no one else did, that personality is a dangerous personality.
You got it.
Because you get addicted to anything. So that same personality that makes you successful, that could be drugs, any kind of gambling, women, whatever your vice is.
I had all of it.
But if you know how to channel it, it can be very useful, that personality. But you experience all this stuff way too young.
Way too young.
Subjective.
And there's no handbook. There's no parent. You know, Charlie Sheen's a dear friend and client too. And he's got, you know, New York Times best-selling book out. It's been on there for like 8 weeks, and incredible things happen in his career with this Netflix documentary and other things. And we really identify with this because he's like, even though his dad and his brother were already there, he goes, dude, there's no way to like understand it. You know, I was out here 6 months ago with my boy Ryan Fitterman and Mike Tyson. We had a event at the Hard Rock. Mike and I got in a real talk about this. And he's like, Prince, I get it, man. 19 years old. I'm the baddest motherfucker on the planet, knocking people out. I got a couple $100 million in the bank. Who gave me a goddamn handbook how to deal with it? So it's so easy for people to like look at me or them or whatever and be like, what? No, that it happens, and there's a reason it's going to happen again. And these influencers now, when you see some of them taking their own lives at young ages, because when we think it's about the money, when we think it's about the stuff and the things and the mansions and the jets and the jewelry and the life and the woman or the shopping, whatever that might be, and you get there. And guess what? You realize you're still unfulfilled. It is the most dangerous, scariest, loneliest place a human being can ever be. Because I've been there.
And then you have the resources to fuck up your own life.
Yep.
That's the biggest issue. You're like, what's going to make me feel that same feeling when you got the
self-sabotage and destructive behavior and getting out of sense of self? Because, and it can happen at any age. I'm not just saying this is for young people. I mean, somebody could be grinding it out for 10, 15, 20 years. We have a lot of friends that made it big in their 30s, 40s. But again, if you're not doing that work, if you're not doing that inner work on sense of self, the brokenness, the character defects, the unresolved trauma, and you're just suppressing it, and it's just that one goal to build, scale, and exit, I do not want to be you. I don't care what amount of.
For you, what was that point when you kept chasing after this? You're making $100,000 before you're even 20. which is insane for somebody who's 16, 17 years old. What's the point when it all blows up?
I'll give you a little bit in between that so we can lead to where it blew up, if that's okay.
For sure. Go ahead.
So at 19, I sold the baseball card company for $1 million. It was my inventory, it was my database. And back then, I didn't need to stay on. It was just, I had a new vision where I started getting enamored with autograph signings. I'd be at convention, I'd be like, wow, people are wrapped around the corner to see Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, and Pete Rose. And I saw one time like Muhammad Ali was coming to one. I was like, this is so much cooler than baseball cards. Wow. So I wanted to start learning that business. And we did that for about 4 years. Now, the reason, this is the first time I really hit business adversity. The reason I got out of that was, and I'm very open about it, there was a forgery scandal going on with Michael Jordan autographs. And there was an FBI forensic document expert that the industry was praising as a guru for authentication. And big investigation by the FBI. I got investigated, got cleared of mail fraud charges because I truly believed the stuff was real. But there was this whole sort of assembly line of different artists forging his name, and the retired FBI forensic agent went to prison. And so my father, some of the greatest lessons he taught me were three things. It's not what you say, it's what you do. Your reputation's the hardest thing to uphold and the easiest thing to lose. And that one was really what mattered to me at that time more than anything. And he would always say the idea is 1%, carrying it through the other 99. So I took whatever I had and I started sending out refund letters. I had to get lawyers involved. And Scott, for the first time in my life, here I am now 24 and I'm like financially ruined. And so
even then you're just worried about going to jail at this point.
Now I'm at the point where I'm getting ready to go to jail. And I had incredible relationships from booking different autograph signings because a lot of people want to know, how did I get all these clients? That's why I wanted to give you the background. And I took my last $3,000 and took my father on a fly fishing trip to Alaska. He wasn't happy about it because he knew I was in the balls of my ass, but I knew fishing was our favorite thing to do. And Prince Marketing Group would not exist today if that trip didn't happen. We're out on this gorgeous stream, and he says to me, what's your next move, fella? When this all works out, like, you're going to go back into that industry? I go, Dad, you know what? I'm so pissed off. All my people that were friends and fans, like, they're haters, and people are like turning their back on me. I'm like, I don't care about that. I want to be an agent, but I don't have 8 years to go to law school. He drops the fishing pole in this gorgeous stream, and we have this guide with us, and it's like, law school? He goes, Darren, he goes, life is about who you know, not what you know. Think about your resources. Think about who supported you with this case, with the judge, and sent letters from, Magic and the Ali's and Smoking Joe Frazier and Joe Montana. And he's like, he's giving one name after the other, Chevy Chase, like everybody. He goes, what I would do is the next time you see Magic, tell him your vision. He goes, because he's like family at this point, even though you guys only go back about 3-4 years. So I was in a hotel suite with Magic a few weeks later. And it's kind of almost like I would have thought he might have spoke to my dad, because they did speak. And he's like, what do you think you're going to do next? And at that point I was cleared. I was charged with like making a false statement because I sort of didn't give everything factual during the interview. So I had like 3 years probation, but for the most part, the big case against me, criminally to go to prison, they knew I wasn't in the wrong. I just made a stupid mistake trusting this one person.
Quick question. What's your go-to when you got 10 minutes before a meeting or a workout? For me, it just used to be whatever I could grab, which usually meant skipping meals entirely or just grabbing something that left me crashing an hour later because it was just full of garbage. That's why I'm partnering with Huel. This Black Edition ready to drink is a complete meal. So it has 35 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, 35 essential vitamins and minerals. It is no sugar added, gluten-free, under $5. I always keep a few of these in my fridge. And honestly, it solved the whole back-to-back meetings, go, nonstop, no time to eat problem super well. And this one's new for me. It's Huel's Daily Greens. I had the blueberry this morning. Honestly, first impression, it was way better than I expected. It's developed by registered nutritionists and dietitians. There are 42 vitamins, minerals, and superfoods, only 25 calories, 4 grams of fiber, and just 1 gram of sugar. I throw one back first thing before my morning calls every single morning. Look, if you're running a business, time is the most valuable asset. Huel makes healthy eating simple, and they also just launched into Target stores nationwide, so you can get it everywhere. Try both products today with 15% off your purchase for new customers with my exclusive code SCOTT at Huel.com/Scott. Try both products today with 15% off your purchase for new customers with my exclusive code SCOTT, SCOTT, at Huel.com/Scott. Use my code, fill out the post-checkout survey to help support the show. That is Huel.com/Scott. They really make healthy living taste amazing. Even if you're on the go, healthy eating, healthy lifestyle doesn't have to taste bad. It doesn't have to suck. NetSuite is a success story partner. Now, what does the future hold for business? If you ask 9 experts, you'll get 10 answers. Bull market, bear market, rates are up, rates are down. At the end of the day, it'd just be easier if somebody invented a crystal ball. But until then, over 43,000 businesses have future-proofed themselves with NetSuite by Oracle, the #1 AI cloud ERP that brings accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR into one unified platform. Here's what I love about it. Instead of juggling multiple systems, you get one source of truth, real-time insights and forecasting that actually let you peer into the future with actionable data. When you're closing your books in days instead of weeks, you're spending less time looking backwards and more time focusing on what's next. Whether your company is earning millions or hundreds of millions, NetSuite helps you tackle immediate challenges while seizing your biggest opportunities. If I needed this product in my business, this is what I'd use. It's a game changer for business visibility and control. If you want to see how AI can transform your financial operations, download the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning for free. That's netsuite.com/Scott Clary. That's netsuite.com/Scott Clary. netsuite.com/Scott Clary. Again, keep in mind, you're like 24 at this point. So everything you're dealing with is something that most 24-year-olds never have to deal with. You don't have to, not that you should never lie to the FBI, but just putting yourself in the shoes of a 24-year-old that made way too much money really quick. You had way more business success than most people even achieve in their life. Forget at 19 when you sold. Now you're being investigated by the FBI. Like, life is coming at you so fucking quick that it is really hard
Forced me to grow up really
to
quick.
understand how to navigate this shit, because I'm assuming, I don't know what your dad or your parents did, but I don't think that they would have been able to give you the exact perfect playbook to navigate everything you went through. No one really
My dad
cared.
was in direct mail coupon advertising, but the one great bit of advice on that fishing trip was telling me it's not what you know, it's who you know, and to speak to magic. So when I was with, I call him Irvin by his real name, I was with him and he asked me that question. I said, Irvin, I want to become an agent. I said, I really think I can do this. I'm learning quite a bit about how this works, from speaking engagements. I'm studying commercials, and I bought these books about how to contact different ad agencies, and learning about like merchandising convention for endorsements. Because who do you think you want? Because you need a big client, and he had that big $1 billion smile, but I'm sweating. I mean, my hands are like, I got to get the question on, my heart's palpitating. At this point, I'd say I'm 24, 25, and I'm like, ask him. You better ask him. It's one of those moments in life, if you don't say it. And I'm like, I'd like it to be you. And he goes, all right. And he smiles, goes, look, you're a good dude, man, and you made a mistake. And just so you know, God tests great men and women, and he's testing you. And he goes, and I love you, and I love your family. He goes, here's what I'm going to do. Get a good entertainment lawyer, or fine if you don't have it. I'm going to let you represent me for 2 years. But if you don't use me to knock down every door to bring in all the celebrities you can to build this agency, I'm going to fire you before these 2 years are up. Because life isn't about how successful I become, Darren. It's about how successful I can make you and everybody else around me. Because when you get there, you're going to learn about paying it forward. I couldn't believe it. It was just so magical. And he was like, because I'm going to be a success the world has never seen in sports and entertainment. Fast forward, we still laugh about it. 30 years ago, multi-billion-dollar empire, owns how many sports teams? 18th world championship now as player owner with the Dodgers. Sorry to say, I know that breaks your heart.
It's okay.
I was with them Monday, a few hours after the parade. And it's just, for somebody to be such a visionary, but also do that to me, and allow that, where I could now bless other people. And, so the success in the agency life started real quick, man. Right after Magic, it was like Joe Frazier and then Robin at the time and Pamela Anderson we had and Chevy Chase. So I learned the business real quick, and the drugs really started accelerating, the involvement in my life. But I learned about morality clauses. So I moved away from illegal drugs, and it became prescription painkillers. That was legal.
So you're too smart for your own good.
Yeah. And I had legitimate back pain, sciatica. I was working out. Every doctor saw my success, gave me whatever I wanted. And for 6 or 7 years, it worked. I mean, I was a networking machine. I remember times, I did a couple projects with Kobe Bryant. I mean, these guys everybody just gravitated towards me. I was super comfortable in my skin when I was high, obviously, around the biggest names in the world. And I often say when I speak, especially to high school kids, that what was once living to use turned out to using to live. And I don't know when that exact moment was, but it got to a point, sort of like that metaphor you said before, where I couldn't really get high anymore. Yeah. Whatever I was taking or mixing or whatever cocktail, it was just making me function. There wasn't much more euphoria coming, to the point where, there were multiple overdoses. And the last one happened in 2007, mid 2007, NBA All-Star break in Vegas. One of my clients was celebrating a big TV show deal that we did. And I was married at the time. And that same Steve Simon that runs my agency now, did the first baseball card show. We were getting ready for an event. He came up to my room, and I had vodka, Red Bull, snorted a few Oxycontins. I had Tussinex cough syrup because I had bronchitis that day that I got diagnosed with. The doctor gave me anything I needed to get from the pharmacy. And man, I was on the ground. I mean, I don't remember anything. Foaming up my mouth, my eyes just sweating, hot flashes, chills. The paramedics came into the room, oxygen mask on my face, needle in my arm, EKG machine everywhere. Clearly, I never made it out that night, but Steve had to see that horrific picture. He came to the room to see if I was ready and saw paramedics everywhere, of me just, what the hell's going on? And that next day, I finally had a little bit of accountability where I got home back to New Jersey, and I called a addiction psychiatrist, but I lied to him too. So it was a process. He told me I was an opiate addict, put me on Suboxone. I didn't tell him I was sniffing Ambien at night. I was still drinking a couple days a week. I was on a mood stabilizer. I was taking Xanax every once in a while. And that just got to a point where, I was a shell of myself, making millions of dollars, biggest names in the world, living this double life. None of it meant anything. And that God shot happened on July 1st of 2008. My Uncle Stu, who's no longer with us, was visiting my mom in New Jersey, and he had a girlfriend at the time, Andrea. They both lived down here. Andrea's still in Miami. And I never met her, Scott, but she walked into my condo, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And something came over me, a connection with this woman that I never had with anybody. And I told her, "No, I'm not." And she asked what was wrong. I told her everything. Told her everything that was going on with the drugs and the way that I was feeling. And she's like, "Do you realize your life's unmanageable and you're an addict?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Most importantly," she goes, "I'm looking at all these photos of you and all these big stars. Do you realize that this doesn't mean anything because you don't mean anything to yourself, and you've been living this way for decades?" And that broke my soul. And I started to cry. And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Do you want the help?" I said, I would love it." And she reached into her pocket. And she goes, "Do you know what this is?" And she goes, "Last week I just celebrated 5 years sober. It's my 5 years sober coin. I can help you get the life beyond your wildest dreams." And she put me on a detox plan. It was the next night, was July 2nd, 2008. I was back in the city with my then wife, and crawling out of my skin, the detox pains, upset stomach, nauseous. They were back in Miami already. I called them. I said, "I can't freaking do this. Forget it. I'm going to call the doctor to get what I really need to get." My uncle starts yelling, "It's the damn disease talking. It's this immature child, this BS behavior. You got to start dealing with your underlying trauma and your issues and get yourself to a 12-step meeting." And, she's trying to support him in the background. I said, "I can't do it. Forget it. hung up the phone, ran in the bathroom, locked the door. My then wife is banging on the door, hysterically crying, think I'm going to overdose. I'm going through all the medicine cabinets, got looking for the non-narcotic anxiety pill she told me I could take to help with the cravings. And out came 2 Vicodins, extra strength Vicodins in one of the bottles. And it was 3 opiates, obviously, to Vicodin, Percocet, and Oxycontin. But the crazy thing was we spent like an hour the night before cleaning out all the medicine cabinets to make sure there was no temptation in the house. So this, in that moment, just for that split second, I remember thinking, wow, what a gift. I thought that was the God shot. But then I wanted to live more than I wanted to die. And the first time of my life, I fell on my knees with the Vicodins in his hand. Then I screamed out to God, take the money, take the business, take the notoriety. If you could give me a single day of freedom and take me out of hell, I promise I'll help take other people out of hell one day at a time. And it was a white light moment that my life in the bathroom in the Caroline building changed forever, because I had a burning sensation on this shoulder. And I'm deaf in my left ear. I wear a cochlear implant once in a while. I don't have it in now, but I heard in my guitar, I heard a voice say, I've got you when you're ready. And I stood up, I flushed the pills, went into the computer, started Googling 12-step recovery meetings, found one in a church 30 minutes later in the upper 80s, went downstairs, flagged a taxi. There was no Uber back then in 2008. And I'm in this cab on this gorgeous summer night of July 2nd, 2008. And looking up, oh my God, what the hell just happened? For the first time in my life, I wanted to stay sober more than I wanted to get high. And I walked into this church basement, not knowing what to expect. There's about 150 to 200 people, all addicts and alcoholics who are in once of a hopeless state of mind. And the leader said, is anybody new, anybody coming back, anyone sick and suffering? And I believe God raised my hand because it went up with no problem. I said, I'm sick, I'm suffering, I'm suicidal. I don't want to live anymore. I need your guys' help. I said, I've got so much to live for, but I don't care about it anymore because my drug addiction and substance abuse issue has gotten so bad. And I felt a part of something in that hour, especially immediately after saying that I never felt before. I had a bunch of grown men that walked over to me and they hugged me and they told me things like, we got you. We know what you're feeling. We've all been there. Stick with the winners. It's easier to stay here, Darren, than it is to come back. I learned about the 5 A's: attitude adjustment, accountability, action, and acceptance. And then the words that just blew me away were a couple of them came over and put their arms around me and they said, we're going to love you before you ever learn how to love yourself. And what I thought at that moment when I was on my knees was the worst day of my life, sooner than later turned out to be my very best.
When you go through, because when you started doing drugs, you were like 14 years old.
Yeah.
What age are you now at this?
When I got sober, I was 38.
38. So from 14 to 38. So basically your whole adult life,
yeah,
you had something that was masking and covering.
Yeah.
After that long, for somebody that is going through this, because it seems like you've probably been living in this state for longer than most people. I think that most people who have been in this state of drugs and depression, it's sad to say they probably don't make it.
They don't make it
that long.
No.
So from somebody who's gone through it and lived through it and has learned to love himself and learned to reshape your identity, which you never had for the first 38 really years of your life. This program is one step, but what are some other things that you had to do outside of just going to this program that really allowed you to be successful and not go back?
12-step recovery meetings are great. You know, it teaches you about the 12 steps. And if you Google the 12 steps, if you're not familiar with it, only the first step talks about alcohol or drugs. There are steps for living. Every single human can understand and appreciate the 12 steps. But for me, I wanted to be so uncommon in the recovery world, amongst the uncommon. I always wanted to be different. And I don't want to just do the program, the fellowship, like it's changed my life, it's saved my life. But one of the steps is continue to take your own personal inventory when you're wrong, promptly admit it. And that's the 10th step. And I'm like, but I don't want to have to keep promptly admitting for doing the same thing. I'm going to get to the root cause of that problem. I'm going to get back, go into my subconscious. So, my boy John Avellino, so he's my trainer in nutrition. He's a master NLP practitioner. Done a lot of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming over the years. Some really deep, life-changing sessions. I've got my boy Lingerie that's been my meditation life coach that, Reiki and all that like sound frequency and really taking me back into, my inner child, talking to myself and talking to moments with my mom or certain people to clear out that sense of forgiveness. And every single day starts with deep breath work, meditation. He actually customizes a lot for me based on where I'm at in my life and bringing certain moments from the past into where I'm at now to like get even different layers of feeling. Then there's so much biohacking that I do for myself. When I talk about this stuff, sometimes people are like, well, man, it's so expensive. Like, no, it's really not. Like, you can get a cheap grounding mat. You can take a cold shower. You could put your face into an ice bucket like my fiance Nutsa does every single morning to stimulate yourself, get those brain waves going. You could go on a hike. You could drink more water instead of soda and crap. You can learn to pray more. You can go to church. You can go to temple. You could go online and start watching on YouTube all the incredible people in the world that are giving you these gems from, Chase Shetty, who's a good friend of mine, and Lewis Howes and Tony Robbins and you. Like, you guys are giving them the tools. There is no excuse anymore. Like, no matter how dark it gets, I've seen situations a million times worse than mine. I found that the real self-esteem for me, slowly but surely, once a day became a month became a year, was to give this gift away to help other people. So always living at a certain frequency. Self-esteem has been built by doing esteemable acts. And then, I've been able to, I told you earlier, on my mom's 1-year passing of her unveiling yesterday. Bro, to go there with such gratitude and see her and my dad's plot, of course there's emotions, but Dad got me 8.5 years sober. Mom had me for 16.5 years sober. Hulk Hogan passed away 3 months ago. Dear friend and client, dear friend, our God-loving connection and what we've been through with each other. And he's seen me from the lowest of low to the highest of highs. I've seen him a beautiful blessing to have dinner with Nick, his son, who I've known since he was a little kid in New York City 2 nights ago. I was with Magic after the parade, 2 hours after the parade. I mean, everything with my clients, the business part is so secondary now. And these are the most successful people in the world. Magic's got a multi-billion-dollar empire. Like, times I've been around Mark Cuban and, Jeannie Buss, who just sold the Lakers. Money never comes up. So when you're watching the people that are triggering, oh, that's the life that I want, or find out why you want it first. Identify, is there, something from that external scent? Because no matter how many regular, everyday, super mega wealthy people I know, they don't have the wealth of those names that I just mentioned. And those people are never posting yachts and never posting jets and never posting jewelry and never posting their flex. Why? Because they're whole within them. And it's easy to say, oh, well, they're all fit. No, they've all had their challenges, but they've risen above it. And they get more joy out of giving. They get more joy out of doing all their philanthropic work. They get more joy as seeing other people succeed because they, in their own way, have done the work on themselves. So famous or not, like, I just think every single person has it in them. And I think all the tools are out there, no matter what you're struggling with. My biggest blessing, as you know, because I've done enough reading and watching my interviews, is that I have my Aiming High Foundation. My 501c3 has been just, oh my God, man, the dopamine high that I get when I'm able to get a call from a family member when somebody comes home from a treatment center, or a family, gets their mother back, their father back, whatever it might be. It's unexplainable. I mean, I'll take that, any day of the week over a multi-million-dollar business deal, because that's purpose, that's wealth, that's changing lives and creating legacy for a mother, a father, the children, and that just was one of the greatest things that I started, the Aiming High Foundation, because I knew when I was doing a lot of speaking, when my book came out, that there was people that had those white light moments. And all I could do was kind of be a voice. But I had no sort of white out. So I'd say, well, you should go to rehab. But I was like, I know enough people. I've got enough wealth in my wheelhouse that I guarantee if I start this, I could start getting some great contributions to donate 100% of the proceeds to scholarship people. And I want to be there when the lights are turned on, because you only get that small moment to make an impact. And I want to be that guy that says, good, you ready to go and pack a bag? Because I'm calling my office now, administration at this center over here. They're going to get on the phone with you in an hour. We're checking you in a few hours. I'm taking care of everything. Every expense.
I'm just wondering if you have an idea about, because I know that this moment in your life, it reshaped your relationship with money, wealth, success, all of it. This is what reshaped everything. It was like a wake-up call, right? Why do you think people get success and wealth, the things that they try and pursue? Why do they get it so wrong? Like, how do we end up pursuing these things that really don't even serve us, that don't make us happy, that don't make us fulfilled? Because there's a different, I just don't understand
I
how
know
we
the
get
answer.
What's the answer?
I was with Gary Vee a couple of weeks ago at the same keynote event that I booked a bunch of clients. And he always says it, because most people care too much about what other people think. And the ones that make it and want to live in that frequency and like, oh, I'm showing you this or showing you this, so all things are possible. No, you're not, because even if you're worth a few $100 million, I know plenty of people that you're extremely poor next to, and they're not doing that. You're doing this because you got a lot of unresolved trauma, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so, and you want to flex from all the failure, from all the being made fun of, the bankruptcy, whatever it might have been, because you don't work on you. Because a person that's in a healed frequency, it's okay to do that. I'm not saying don't post a vacation every once in a while, proud that you just bought this new home, but live in a vibration of what that wealth has now done. Show individuals whose lives that you've impacted. That's the content that should be put out there. Not that, a lot of mega wealthy people want recognition for the contributions, what they're doing. But you know what? Those are the stories that need to be published more. And especially, like I said, some of these elite entrepreneurs, these everyday people that want to be insta-famous because they're not fulfilled with all their wealth. Don't just sit here and make it like you're doing all that to show people all things are possible. Give them a handbook. Start your own charity where people can send in applications that they need real mentorship from you. Or how about this? How about handpick a dozen people that fill out applications that actually have real businesses that might have a shot that you invest in and finance, become their advisor, their partner. Those are the stories we need. That's somebody that the people that live in that frequency, because I've seen enough, they're healed. They get what real wealth is. We're blessed with real wealth and abundance so we can pay for other people. I have so much happening in my businesses right now. It is mind blowing. And it's because, number one, I don't have the relationship with money that I used to. And Newt will tell you, because, we're engaged. He's not only a client. I do nothing for me. I don't care. I need a couple of vacations a year. If I go shopping, it's for sneakers, Adidas, and Nike sweatpants and some T-shirts. I don't. All that stuff. I've lived it. I know it doesn't make me happy. I love blessing other people. I love blessing my girls in my office in California, and my people back in New Jersey, and just putting smiles on other people's faces. And that just continues to deepen and strengthen that self-esteem, paying it forward to others.
It's so interesting how when you serve people, the money comes anyways.
Dan Fleischman and I spoke a couple of days ago. I know you've had, I mean, we had this conversation 2 days ago because, dude, there's nothing better. We even go deeper, talk about like our exes. Like we had this conversation about, I'm like, I don't hold a grudge against anybody. If somebody didn't work even on a relationship with one and they've needed my help from time to time, they will all tell you. I'm the one they call. That's not a simp. That's a good human that knows that if it didn't end, obviously, catastrophically, I mean, there's certain ways, certain relationships end that I don't fully agree with it, depending on the situation. But if somebody's a good person and you just had a situation in time or whatever it might be, I don't ever see an issue with an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend helping each other, guiding each other, advice for each other, how to get ahead financially. Like, you got to let your past make you better, not bitter. And I think there's a big misconception on that, too.
Indeed is a success story partner. Now, if you're hiring, Indeed is all you need. Let me give you an example. If I needed to hire a new editor for this show, I'd go to Indeed and be super specific. Not just, can you edit audio? I'd say I need someone who's edited a conversational podcast for at least 3 years, gets our style, and knows our software. Someone who's done this before. And here's the thing with Indeed sponsored jobs. I'd get people who fit that description. I'm not digging through resumes from people who've edited one YouTube video. I'm getting actual podcast editors who know what they're doing. People who've worked on shows like ours and can prove it. That's what makes a difference. You get people who actually are what you're looking for. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. And people are finding quality hires right now. In the minute that I've been speaking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes, less stress, less time, and more results now with Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/Clary. Just go to Indeed.com/Clary right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Clary. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. HubSpot is a success story partner. Now look, if you're in marketing right now, or if you're an entrepreneur who's hired marketers, or if you're a founder who leads a whole marketing team, you know the drill. You are creating content for 12 different channels. You're launching campaigns. You're scoring leads. You're analyzing all the data, and somewhere in there, you're actually supposed to do great marketing, and it's exhausting and you're spread too thin. But this is what actually works for marketers to give you your life and your time back. HubSpot's Marketing Hub, HubSpot's Content Hub, combined with their new AI called Breeze. Now, what this actually does is basically everything that you shouldn't have to do yourself. It remixes your content instantly, so you're not starting from scratch every single time. It handles lead scoring, so you know exactly who to focus on, which customers will probably convert, and it pulls all your analytics and your data and KPIs into one place instead of having them scattered across 15 different tabs and tools. Plus, the AI agents that HubSpot builds for you can automate the repetitive stuff that's eating away your day. Bottom line, you get better results faster without burning out. See, with HubSpot, everything's connected in one platform instead of duct taped together. So if you're tired of being spread too thin, check out HubSpot.com/marketers to see how this actually works. I just wish that more people would just, when they're trying to live and be successful and sort of achieve their purpose, if they just focused on giving everything that they've learned to the world, like teaching the world what they've learned, or just helping the world, giving value to the world, the money comes anyways. 100%. The money always comes anyways. The money always comes. Like, there's never anybody who's like, I've given nonstop value to the world my entire life, and I ended up broke.
Come back to me. I can't pay my bills. I've never heard it.
It doesn't exist. It just doesn't fucking exist. And I just wish people would. It seems like this whole hustle culture, the people you're talking about on Instagram where they're posting their yachts, and it seems like they're just trying to extract as much value from the world. Like, let me just take as much as I can from the world. That's the wrong way to think about business, entrepreneurship, living. And like, even, you were making money and you were doing good work, but you were just like, you weren't living the right way.
Exactly.
You just weren't living the right way.
I wasn't living the right frequency.
How do I serve
with myself?
And that's what happened. Now, on the other side of this, when you are healing and when you are looking at wealth and success in a completely different light, like, people have to understand, it's not like you're not making money anymore at all. At all. It just means you are doing it in a way that is serving yourself, serving the world. You're not self-destructive. You don't have there's no limit now on your life anymore, because the way you make money and the way you build a business and the way you sort of put yourself out into the world, yeah, yeah, there's a business component to it. Yeah. But also, you're not going to die of an overdose or kill yourself or, God forbid, do something that's illegal or wrong or immoral just because of the way that you operate.
Out of the hundreds of interviews I've done, you're the first person to ever put it out that way. And I never thought about it, but I've done a lot of interviews and TV and talk shows and been on Q&A panels. And people actually ask me, am I still an agent? Because my passion is so much. But just like you said, no, that hasn't stopped. Like, my week was crazy. And none of this is to name drop, it's reality. It was Magic on Monday. We had Larry Bird do something in Naples yesterday. Like, we're around all the guys. Charlie Sheen's got to do something tonight in New Jersey. We're very blessed to have the talent that we have. I just choose not to talk about it all the time. You know, people, to maybe be a little bit more intrigued by my story, like to hear some of those stories. And like I said, Goggins is speaking tomorrow night. But that's not what gets me fired up.
Because it's not your identity anymore.
No, I'm talking about it because I'm talking about it not to name drop. I'm talking about it because it's real. Like,
yeah.
This is what the schedule this week was. I told you before we went on camera what the week was like. The one that was the most emotional was going to do my mom's 1-year unveiling yesterday at the cemetery, I told you. And the fact that I had such gratitude, as heartbreaking it is to see her and my dad together on the same different plots next to each other. What a blessing that Dad had me sober for 8.5 years and Mom had me for 16.5. That means more than any of the other stuff that's happening this week.
I know. And it's because, like, your identity is no longer just money.
Right.
Your identity is service.
Or the celebrity life.
Or the celebrity life. There's a few words that you said, like a few quotes that I really, really like. One of them, I want you to tell me exactly what it means, because I think it'll mean a lot for people that are going through a very hard time in their life, or they're addicted to something. And when I say addicted to something, it could be addicted to work. It could be addicted to drugs. It could be addicted to a variety of different things.
Gambling, food, shopping,
anything.
It's all bad.
Any addiction.
Working out.
And this is a whole other idea. Patrick Bet-David first said this idea, and it actually really resonated. So if people don't believe, and this is not like a spiritual, religious podcast, but I think this is a valid point. If people don't have a God in their life in a traditional sense, in a healthy sense, then they replace God with some other version of God, and they worship something else. And worshiping something else, idolizing something else, again, food, women, gambling, work, whatever it is, idolizing any of these things, it's, again, self-serving and highly destructive. So you cannot idolize anything that just benefits you. Like, your goal in life should be to give value, idolize nothing, and just pursue giving value to the world, and then all the other stuff will come back to you in the meantime. But you mentioned something about addiction, and then I think addiction is the same as idolizing, is the same as unhealthy obsession, is the same as replacing traditional God with worshiping some other part of your life. But you said the opposite of addiction is connection. Explain to me what that means from somebody who is worshiping something they shouldn't be worshiping.
So ironically, I don't know if you watched my Jay Shetty interview, but that's the one that blew him away the most. He's like, oh, it's that powerful. It's the truth. It's a disconnect. Addiction is, when you literally have a disconnect of here. So when you get dialed back into a power greater than ourself, a God of your understanding, and anything in life, we could take that power back. Because when you're in an addictive state of anything, the biggest struggle is the lack of power. So when you could take that back and stay in your truth, no matter how the healing has to take place, the support group, whatever that might be, the individuals, the meditation, the prayer, the religious centers, churches, temples that you would go to, you're now surrounding yourself a vibration of a connection of people that understand that connectivity and what's needed to stay on that path. Because meetings I can miss here and there, it's not the end of the world, but I just feel like a better person when I get to them. Because I often say, like I've said in many interviews, I want to be the highest vibrating spiritual being I could be. I want to say what I mean what I say, and not say it mean. In the heat of an argument, dealing with other earth people, I don't want to engage. I'd rather just feel all right than right, even if I know I'm right.
Yeah.
Just let it go. Because for any of your listeners, the minute you engage and the minute you give back that energy, I didn't even care if you win that day. You've lost because your day's off. Yeah. You know, you've now put yourself into a bad energy space. And it's just so bad. You know, that's why just being kind and being in service and knowing what our character flaws are. You know, like, look, we're not doormats. I understand we're human beings every once in a while, but it's also, as our parents used to say when we were young, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. That's why I choose to say what I mean what I say, and not say mean. Now, of course, my human will occasionally, my sober sponsor, Steve, he's like my big spiritual brother. You'd always say, he still tells me this day once tonight, because remember what I told you? If you snap and it happens and you don't feel bad, he goes, that's when you're not a doormat. Occasionally, you just got to put people into their place. He goes, but it's the tone. It's the way you do it. You don't need to go like psychotic, but we do it to the point where...
Yeah, you protect your energy. You protect your... And this is also why the people you surround... A couple thoughts just on this topic, but the people you surround yourself with are so damn important, because those are the people that give you the right energy, encourage the right behaviors. This is not a new idea.
The three biggest components of drug addiction, alcoholism, right at the top: people, places, and things. The people you hang with, the places you go, and the things that you do will determine your recovery, or the quality of your recovery, more than anything you ever do.
And on the inverse, you know, look at the other side of that. That can also be the reason why you do get addicted. And I actually think this is why isolation is so dangerous. And we are more isolated than ever before after COVID. So if we're sitting at home and we don't have a good community, people around us, and all of our input is social media and Twitter and argument and anger and animosity, that fuels addiction, that fuels bad behavior. And I think that one of the first steps, one of the many steps, and you sort of just said this, but is to get yourself into environments that are healthy, get yourself out of your own head, and get yourself around people that can hold you accountable and lift you up.
100%. I mean, the isolation. Look, I need to, even this morning on I had my grounding mat with me. It was my grounding mat. It was my hydrogen water. It was meditation. I got to work out and, you know, eat clean, everything I have to do, because, like, here's the thing, like, healing is an ongoing journey. You're never fully healed. I choose to say I'm recovered from, you know, drug addiction, because I do basically what I knew every single day to stay in that recovery frequency. I disconnect for a week or two. Trust me, I know this is not a lifetime cure. I know it's a one day at a time. I love getting high. I'm going to sit here and tell you 7.5 years later, I love being high and isolating. I just can't do it successfully. That's what most real addicts that are on the path of sobriety understand. So without that connection of individuals that know what that's like, you don't stand a chance. But it's not just in drugs and alcohol. Like I said, it's whatever your addiction or your character flaws, find that group online, whatever it might be, read those books to strengthen that connection. Be around people that understand exactly what it is that you're going through. And especially ones that have more experience at it, go into the good side, crossing over, because you'll take from them. And you're helping them too, because you're going to remind them about what it was like a little bit early on, whether it was a shopping addiction, food addiction, sex addiction, gambling addiction, so many problems out there.
And helping others, I assume, helps you.
It's number one. It's number one. I've unfortunately seen people fail and die. I mean, I scholarshiped a guy during COVID, and the wife, the ex-wife, she got the kids away from him, and she called me. We actually grew up in the same town, and I spoke to the guy, and call went great. And Brandon Novak, one of my spiritual recovery brothers from Jackass, he got on the phone with the guy too, and we were super pumped. And the guy's like, "Thank you for this. I'm going to the treatment center, and tomorrow." Left me a message, and I just went into that week and, man, I did God's work again. Thank you, God. And that Monday morning, the woman called me, and I could tell something's wrong in her voice. And he left the center at Sunday night, and they found him dead in the park. And it just set in at that time where I was like, I'm truly part of this fellowship where, as terrible as it sounds, that we need to see people fail and die so I can live, so we can live, to understand that this is life and death. Like, there's people, we're losing more lives from drug addiction and substance use and mental health than anything. And I need to be on my A game every single day to make sure that I don't take a step backwards, and that opposite of addiction is connection. The connection is everything for me to stay in that vibration.
What is that necklace you wear?
This is for people. This is the insignia for the famous. At this point, I'm going to have to break anonymity. This is Alcoholics Anonymous, NA. They basically, this was the insignia June 10th of 1935 when the 12-step fellowship was formed. Yeah. And, certain old timers, I apologize to disrespect, but I live in a different way. I like people to ask what it is because even yesterday at my mom's, we had a lunch for 30 people celebrating my mom. And one of the waiters came over to me and he said, man, I'm in recovery too. He goes, how much time do you have? And I was like 17 and a half years. He goes, man, I got 7. We had a meeting for like 15 minutes with each other. It's the greatest thing in the world. Here I am after dealing with the emotions to see my mom and my dad trying to stay in gratitude. And I see this young waiter and we're in the corner of the restaurant talking about 15 minutes about. And so I proudly wear this because it's why you have me here.
I also think that people underestimate how much of an impact they have on other people just by living a good life. I don't think the average person understands that people are always watching and they're always looking and they're always they're always saying, okay, so can I look up to this person? What have they accomplished? And you can be a role model in someone's life without ever knowing it. Like even the fact that you wear this and that waiter comes up to you, like that 15-minute conversation could have had such an impact on his life. We exchanged numbers.
He goes, I'd love to stay in touch with you.
And you never know what someone else is going through. Like, I just wish more people would be less selfish about life in general. Because if you realize that it's not just your life that you impact when you make stupid decisions, or you're an asshole, or you regress, or you take something or treat somebody a certain way, or it's like there's ripple effects to every single action. And there could be somebody who looks up to you, who their worldview is just shattered because you did something that you shouldn't have done.
Yep, I know. And we've seen that, unfortunately. People that are very highly respected and highly regarded, and it's like I truly got to this place, and I've said it before in interviews. My boy Omar, I said it, I think, on some other ones, that like I don't care about the money anymore. And I think that's why it manifests. Like, I care about my purpose. And it's like, if I lost the business and the world turned upside down financially and I lost the money and couldn't live where I live and drive the car that I drive, it doesn't change me. I move into a little studio, like this beautiful podcast studio, and I'm good because I found me. I'll figure life out. I know enough people out there that Darren Prince is going to be okay because I found what matters the most. And it's an unbelievable feeling of like a superpower to be able to live that authentic and that transparent and share it with people in an effort to help so many that need to hear it and that are suffering.
You speak at high schools, you speak to kids, you mentioned that you really enjoy doing this. What scares you the most about a younger generation right now?
Well, what's out there. I didn't have fentanyl. I didn't have some of the stuff that...
Oh, just the access.
It's very scary what's out there with them. And the access to it is like beyond. I mean, I'm not a parent yet. We'll see what happens. Is obviously Newts and I talk about it once we get married, but it's scary. I know you have kids, right?
No, not yet.
Oh, not yet. Okay.
That's next for us. I'm scared too. I am scared about, like, I'm going to have kids. I want kids for sure, but I'm scared.
Yeah, it's a scary situation because I mean, they're always curious. Everybody's curious growing up and getting in with the cliques and certain groups of friends. And you don't want to sometimes that peer pressure. You don't want to kind of feel like you don't want to put yourself around an environment. I know very well-to-do younger kids that did fine, that never fell down that road, but they understood that. You're meeting people, you're experimenting, but nowadays it's so scary what's out there. I mean, I hear so many stories of somebody just one time trying something and the parents lost their child.
This is actually, this is not an issue that plagues a certain demographic. Like I know very wealthy. I know very wealthy families, some good friends of ours that have lost their kids. It happens actually quite a bit in LA. It's just, and it's not even addiction at this point. It's like party drugs
Exactly.
that end up killing people.
Yep.
So, I think
one night, that's what I
it's just
said.
one
It could
night,
literally be one night, a drink, something was in the drink, a pill, having no idea what was in it.
or you think you're taking something and it turns out to be something else.
Yeah, well, I mean, so much is being like this fentanyl now, man. They're putting it. I don't understand it. The philosophy. I was like, if I even had the mindset of being a drug dealer, why are you putting something in something that's going to kill somebody?
I don't get it. I don't
It
understand
doesn't
it.
make any sense. Like, is it like, is it not meant to kill everybody? Or like some people would be like, just get high off it and feel good and wake up the next day? Like, don't they, like, I don't understand this. It's happening too much.
Outside of fentanyl, what would be your, I mean, like, that's obviously
The other concern that
the
I
other
have with that,
concerns. Yeah.
I think they're way too caught up with success and
So
not
pursuing
understand
this
it.
like Instagram version, hustle
Yeah,
culture, yachts,
and
bullshit.
just in general, I don't think. I was at the White House 3 times during President Trump's first term, and I'll probably be out there again. Love him or hate him, I have a relationship with him from the Celebrity Apprentice days, and his family's great. They've always been. President Trump's always been a supporter to my charities and rehab stuff. And I got to get time with Kellyanne Conway and Governor Christie. And I told them, I was like, if you guys want to really help the mental health crisis and, suicide and everything going on with this younger generation, why don't you start implementing in every grammar and high school a self-development course? If you start bringing in teachers that can teach them about self-development and self-love, now you have the nerds, the geeks, the jocks, whatever group everybody wants to go. They're all in the same room together. And they can all throw out there the way that they're feeling. And they can all be one. And now there's not any more bullying and teasing because everybody's experienced something. Part of the class would be you have to live in full disclosure in this classroom, or guess what? You're not getting to the next grade. That's what this is about. So you're ready to leave here and you take the next step to college. And then the real world, you're going to look back at this course and this class that you took for 6 months, whatever it might be, and say this is the most impactful class you ever took in your educational years. But they don't do it.
No, I know. I mean, we could do a whole podcast on things that I think are incorrect and wrong about like education and what they teach versus what they don't teach. I love that idea.
Everybody says it's an amazing idea. They loved it, but I don't regret it because I wouldn't be sitting here with you today. Yeah. But what a game changer it would be. That, like, when I think back now, like if I had that at 14, think about your insecurities and things going, how cool would that be, man? Like, and what a way to like break bread and for everybody to actually.
Because then it just makes psychologically a healthier adult. Yeah. Because again, most of the shit that you were talking about at the beginning, like why people pursue money or drugs or anything, is because of some version of early childhood trauma that is implanted into your subconscious. And trauma doesn't have to be like...
Doesn't have to be bad trauma.
No, it doesn't have to be like your parents were fighting. And
exactly.
No, it could be... Well, your parents had ideas about what money is and isn't, and they always said, well, we can't afford that. So now there's something implanted in your brain about, now I got to make more money.
Afford it, causing insecurities and obsessive need for security.
Or it could be, well, this nurse gave me this drug one time, and I felt at a very young age when my brain isn't even fully, I don't think your brain's developed at 14, God forbid, no, it's not even developed till much later, So now you're just associating drugs with, okay, now I have a better, I have more confidence, and I have an easier time making friends. So that's a memory that's implanted in and you have all these memories that are implanted in your brain when you're just developing. And that shit does not leave you. Maybe you don't think about it every single day, but that is in your subconscious until you die, unless you get it out, talk about it, bring it to the forefront. And that's why a lot of people are 30, 40, 50, or why can't I have a relationship? Why do I work, 100 hours a week and make money when my wife or my husband doesn't even care about the money that I make? Why do I have such a poor relationship with my parents, my kid? All of this is from a young age.
But there's ways to bring it out into the surface.
You were forced to bring it out into the surface, or else you would have died.
100%. But when I did Bradley a couple of times, my boy, I was maybe early this year, I think I did again. I was talking about the biohacking. I even do like frequency. My boy Brian has this incredible center in Westlake Village, California called Sports IQ. And bro, it's next level stuff. They can measure your emotions with it, and they can actually work on that. So like, it's mind blowing to me that like, when you're literally in that place, like, listen to us. Like, there's ways out there that you can watch this interview right now because of Scott's brilliant platform, and there's hope for everybody if you're in that dark place. Like, it's all out there now, and it's affordable, and some of it's free.
Well, this is all free.
It's
on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify, and it's all free.
Yours is, but like I'm saying, some of like the biohacking stuff, and Gary Brecker got me set up at 10X, and he was there like, hey, I understand some of that cost, but there's so much that doesn't. There's so many quick fixes on a daily that you can. If you have an apartment and you have a shower, I don't care if it's a shit box, your shower works. Run a cold shower for a minute first thing in the morning. Watch what it does to your endorphins, dopamine. Go for a walk around the block. Take your shoes off. Walk on the grass for 15 minutes. Consistently start that routine for a week and read a couple good books.
You know what I think it is? I think that the theme or the idea that will help the most people that I speak about a lot, it's just like ownership over your own shit. Yeah. This is David Goggins. This is Jocko Willink.
I think it's one of the first things I said to you. Yeah. It's not your mother, father, sister, brother, husband, wife. Own it. It was me. It's me. No, nobody, like, when you talk about ownership, like, if you would have taken that green Demerol sleepaway camp, I don't think it's going to have the same effect on you that it had on me. It had it on me because I suppressed. I didn't tell the teachers what were going on. I didn't tell my parents. I chose to keep inside the way that I was feeling. So I have to own everything that I did.
So I want to give people the opportunity to connect with you. I know your book was a while ago, but obviously if they want to get your book, they can get it Amazon, wherever you get your books. Where else should they go? Like social media, website?
Instagram is @agent_DP. My 501c3, the Aiming High Foundation website is aiminghighfoundation.org. I'm still on Facebook, Darren Prince, Los Angeles. I'm on LinkedIn somewhere. But yeah, I mean, this isn't about business. Prince Marketing Group is the agency. I can care less if somebody reaches out on that. I prefer if we can get to at least one person from this interview that reaches out and says, I saw your interview with Scott and I'm struggling. They're going to find out how quickly I'll get on the phone. Not text messages. Literally, we'll have my office set up a call and see if I could do more of God's work as an ambassador for him saving and changing my life, because there's nothing that means more to me.
What would be your last message to somebody who's struggling right now?
You don't have to live this way anymore. I've been there. I know where you're at. And, you can truly go through the dark and come out on the light and have a life beyond your wildest dreams. But you can't give up, and you have to be open to talk about it. You got to be willing to tell somebody like me or a family member or a loved one what's going on. The strength is in being vulnerable, not hiding it. When you're able to just come out and have that freedom of saying everything and not hiding it, the miracles start to happen.